So what we're going to do here is have a look at what I look for when I print out the first round of prototypes, when I'm prototyping stuff. So these are two sitting versions of Tony and Todd that I sculpted the other night, and I print them off in two of what I think probably are going to be the best positions. Sitting straight down and then at a slight angle. So what I'm looking for when I do the first couple of prints, I initially do one print just to make sure everything on it prints perfectly, and then I do another print where I start thinking about the support structures, because if other people are going to be printing these things out, I want the supports to be perfect, okay, and precise. And I also want the model to come out as clean as possible, with few many attachments. So as it's printing upside down, it needs supports, and that's what these structures are the supports. And there's basically like 3 settings on Lychee, and you can fine tune them. You've got small supports, medium and large supports, which just is about the thickness, how long the head of it is. You see that, like, see how they go in there. So I've done a mixture of these of I created some sort of custom small versions as well. So the standards are 0.6 mil for a medium tip. So the little tip that actually goes all the way in has a 0.6 tip, and small has a 0.3. And sometimes what I like to do is create another small version, my own version, which has a 0.2 tip. Now that's for very, very fine stuff that is not is kind of backing up the primary supports. It's not the preliminary supports, for stuff that's very, very thin and very, very light. And I can show you why right here, because right here I got a little bit cocky this morning. I decided I'm going to do some very small, very tiny little tips, and all of these are 0.2 tips on the hands, and that just did not support the hands at all, and we end up with these monstrosities basically. So they just haven't printed properly at all. So you need to strike a balance between strength and damage to the final model. So let's have a look. Like if they're vertical like this, it usually means with figurines you can use less supports on the final model, and you can have a quick look around here. Everything's basically still attached. Everything that was 0.3 is still attached, and where it attaches on the hands you're not going to see because that's on the underside. So what I've been aimed to do is put as much, probably over support maybe a little bit, to everything underneath, but I'm just looking to make sure that everything before I start taking it apart actually supported properly. You can see there's some micro supports on Tony's hump there, right at the back. You see that on the other side of that? Can you see that right there? Anyway, a few bits and pieces there. I think I've just broken one. So I missed his foot. Look at that. So look, totally missed his foot, and he didn't print his foot properly. So got to remember to go back. So that one's generally, all the supports seem good. This one's at a slight angle, so there's going to be more bits on the back. I also tilt them a little bit that way as well, just to sort of reduce the surface tension. So these have a different arrangement of supports and bits and pieces. So I'm going to switch this off, or put this camera in a better position where I can actually break these things up. Now there's like 2 schools of thought, or several different ways of breaking these 3. The ones that I like doing is actually running them under a bit of hot water, and then these supports come off very smoothly. They sort of just snap off. But if you want to be really pedantic, get a pair of side cutters and actually cut them, just a tiny incy, like a half a mil away from the actual surface, so there's a little bit of a bump sticking out. Because when you break them, I'll show you. Watch what happens here. When you just break them off naturally, I'm gonna have to do it. I may have broken some hands in the process. Yeah, see, that's why you have to be real careful to breaking stuff off. I just ripped his leg off, but this is just for, you know, I know this is shit anyway. But you can see you get the terrible scratches on the model. Like, you get these little pits and these little holes. That's what happens if you're too rough. Now, if you run it under hot water, they will come. You'll get less of a problem, and you can always just fill these in. If you're painting them, it doesn't really matter. By the time you've like put your base coat on, you painted it, you won't see those bumps anyway. But little very fine sandpaper, like a little fat emery board or something like that, can get those down. Yeah. Also, the other thing is some people like to take the supports off before it's cured or after it's cured. Me, I prefer doing it before it's cured. In this case, I've cured them just because I knew I was going to do this with the video, and these are literally just me inspecting the bits and pieces. These are not like final pieces I'm going to use. But it's a matter of preference. Once they're like clean, and this goes for IPA cleaned, you know, solvent based or solvent cleaning based resins. Once they're perfectly clean, and you can run them under a hot tap, and these little pieces will break away really easily. Or you can just get a bowl. It's a nice one. Just get a big bowl, preferably a bowl you're not going to use for your salad or anything that you eat from. In fact, don't let it be an eating bowl, you know. Put something aside, or a plastic tub like an ice cream tub. Fill it with nice warm water, sort of hot to the touch, and just leave them in there a moment to soak, and you'll find that the parts come away much nicer. It does mean that you will have to dry the pieces all over again. But okay, so let's see if we can make this work. So we have two versions here of Tony. One was printed off at an angle, and one was printed completely flat. So one was printed like that, and one was printed slightly at an angle to one side. And it's good, you know, just because of the way that the resin prints, you know, layer by layer by layer, you can do twice as many models in exactly the same amount of time, so long as you've got room on your build plate to do it. So why not do it? Like, try a couple of different configurations of supports and see how it works. Oh, pardon me. Oh, someone's coming. So it doesn't turn out too bad. There's a bit of scratch in there. Not too bad underneath, actually. I'm not happy with the hand didn't come out very good. These even more supports. So I have quite a few supports on the hand. That's more like a flipper than a hand. Look. It helps when you're the actual, you know, model maker yourself. You can see how these things go. That little strand there is a micro support, which basically goes between pieces that are really too close together. And you can see what I've done with the model. You see here the inside of his shirt. Let me put that as clearer. So his shirt's flying off. I filled his shirt in because it just makes it too hard to actually print, you know, a concave surface on something that's really not necessary. That could always just be painted black or a dark, you know, color of whatever his shirt is, and you get the same impression, and it's fine. This little guy, this is the horizontally printed one. So he printed basically how he sits, and if you look underneath, you can see there's a lot more supports, but I don't really care too much about that because that can be filed down, and it doesn't really matter. You're not going to see them. And the supports probably didn't need any supports around. I'll put some supports around his shirt there because there was a significant hangover, so I've had to support that. I supported quite well under the legs. I used medium support, a combination of small and medium supports on the legs, and that seemed to work out well. Yeah, just printing them horizontally seems to be good. There's a smaller number of indentations on the head, which means you can actually see the striations better on the back of the head there. You see it there compared to there. It's a bit more messed up. Admittedly, I took this off and the hands are... Ugh, the hands are really terrible. Doing the hands this way are fine. You know, you can see the holes. Can you see the holes in the arm just there? Oh. Doesn't really matter because you're not going to see that because they're going to sit like that. Looking up. I mean, technically, that is the front of the face, like that, not that. But almost looks like a shrew, doesn't he? No, he turned out all right. Let's do the same for Tony. So you can see, yeah, see there are obviously no marks on top of the head where you're going to see. You can see them like this. Can't really see any marks. I've not cleaned anything off. This is just how it's come out. It's just snapped out really easy. You know, some of the recommendations, oh, that foot's not good. Well, dude didn't support that foot properly. Look at that. Something really weird happened there. Well, that's no good. Check that out, figure out what that was. Maybe I only supported one side instead of two sides. Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll go back and look at the slicer layer. But generally speaking, the hands turned out good because they're flat to the surface. Yeah, they're much better. It's much better, much better. Okay, so I'm just going to print them horizontally. I'm just going to print them as they're sitting. Rather than do a weird angle, because then I have to put some supports on his back. If I just do it that way, I just put supports at the bottom, a little bit under the underhangs and on the hands going up, but very few going up the arms. With this one, because his arms are actually down, so he's supporting himself. So if I get the right one, it will be sitting on the edge like that. And that's really the angle that you should be looking at them, kind of looking up at you. And they've got much more character and they sit flatter. Still not completely flat on there. I've done something wrong. Maybe it's the actual surface. The hands should be actually on the floor, but they're not quite on the floor. So see that? That's not quite right. See, when I was sculpting something, I did something. I need to shave off a little bit more off their bums so they're sitting a little bit flatter, or pull their arms down a little bit. Better to sort of squish them down a bit. But you know what? It's not too bad. Might just be the surface, you know. Oh, it might just be the surface like that. He's close enough as damn it, you know. Got nice character to him. Oh yeah, his hands are definitely should be. Where are we? Yeah, they're still not quite level. They look right on the computer, but when they actually print out, there's a bit of shrinkage. So it's not quite right. Pretty close though. Like a little bit shaving off the bum, and they'll sit down. Oh, I like that. That's good. So he can sit in a multitude of different ways, you know. Like he can like be balancing on something. Oh, okay. Well, he can't balance very well. He can sit on the corner of something. They make a cute couple though, don't they? Yeah, see? There's much more action. Arms are all flailing. Tony's much more fidgety than Todd is. Sorry, Todd is much more fidgety than Tony. Yeah, not bad. A little bit of work to do.